Hey, this is Christopher McClure, and welcome to the Shift Show, where we bring spirit to bear on trending issues. And this week, the trending issue is trust. And the way that I sort of arrived at this topic for this week was earlier in the week. I was having a sense. Well, I've been going through kind of a a process of bringing a lot of different elements together and really not knowing how they fit together, but having, you know, having some trust, some belief that, these that I had to, I have to put these together. I have to try to put these together, move forward with it. And even if I proceed with a configuration that's wrong, then I'm going to find out what the right configuration is. So what the sense I had was that I had everything I needed. All the pieces of the puzzle were there, are here, and just what I need to do is to use what I have, number one, and to trust that by using um, those pieces, and of course, having being clear about my intention, that I will, arrive where I want to be. So I am going to share my screen, and so that I can show a chart that I made regarding trust. Coming up here in just a minute. There we go. Okay, so once again, if you haven't seen me use this geometric figure before, it's called the Enneagram, and I call this the way I use it. I call it the ancient Enneagram. The Enneagram is its roots are traced at least back to Egypt, and it's a geometric figure that symbolizes that it's actually a container. It's a metaphysical container for any complete system of knowledge, meaning that if any you know if you have a complete system of knowledge, or you seek to create a complete system of knowledge, it will fit into the Enneagram, and the Enneagram can help you achieve that. So, of course, the system of knowledge that this week I was looking um, to configure is trust. So the and in the Enneagram, you can, if you'll notice, there's a triangle, and uh, and so in any complete system of knowledge, or any kind of endeavor, or any kind of topic, there's usually going to be a polarity, and then a sort of a balancing part. It's sort of like, father, mother, child, or positive, negative, neutral. Um, there's going to be, when you hold the tension of a polarity, of opposites, there's going to be a new thing born, and that new thing becomes, in a sense, a solution. So in this case, the polarity is effort versus surrender, and the thing that's born is trust. And so hopefully this sequence, um, and the way the sequence is arranged, will provide insight for you about about what trust is, and how you can come to that in your life. So we don't get the first thing I want to say is we don't get to trust. Um, we don't get to it by just surrendering. It's like there you actually have to meet God halfway, and that's what this strategy and discipline thing are about. That you need to have a plan. We need to, you know, I think what we're going for is a state of wholeness, and this a state of wholeness is made up of both left brain kind of activity and right brain activity, and so that strategy, um, which can also incorporate intention. So it's not strictly left brain or detailed oriented, but it's actually like um, using your mind to direct yourself to where you want to go. And of course, you can have the greatest strategy, but if you don't follow through with it, if you don't apply it in a regular way, if you don't have discipline about it, then that strategy will not amount to very much. Okay, so this is the effort part of the. You can see that the triangle divides this circle into three parts. We've got this part, we've got this part, and we've got this part. And so this part, this part right here is defined by this topic right here, which is effort. And so the sort of the components of that are strategy and discipline. All right, so the next part is or surrender, which is like the opposite in a sense of effort, is defined by these. And so in surrender, what when you're applying a strategy and you're going about it in a disciplined way, you're really focusing. You're saying, I want this to happen, right? You're telling the universe what you want to happen. But there is usually a process where, the way that that's going to show up is not the way you think it will show up. The, the universe usually has its own how. What you want, why you want it, but the how is not always how you think it will come about. And so first there's an acceptance, there has to be acceptance about that it's like, okay, well, I've been doing, I have this plan, and I've been doing it in a disciplined way, and um, it feels, maybe there's a struggle that kind of ensues, or where you just don't, you're actually struggling with things externally or internally, um, but basically which result in a non-result, and you don't get the result that you want, that you were planning on. So you have to accept that maybe there's another way, or maybe there's something, maybe this strategy is not in alignment with the greater good, and so that has to modify in order, and so by accepting the situation, you allow that modification to occur, or you allow a different how to come forward, right? But so it's like accepting is one thing. It's like, okay, all right, I guess I didn't really, know how to. I guess I don't know how to do this, you know. But that can result in a kind of dejection. You can kind of like, yeah, it's like kind of an Eeyore kind of mindset, which is, yeah, I don't know shit, and yeah, things don't work out, right? Well, you have to modify that acceptance with a positive attitude. That it's like, okay, well, I did the effort part, and now I'm waiting to see what's going to show up. And if you have a good attitude, an attitude of just kind of expectancy, and it's like, okay, so what's next? Universe, show me what's next. Then, then we can, then unexpected things can happen. So this surrender, part of the circle here is comprised of these two components: acceptance and attitude. Um, and like I said, that um, when you utilize these components, then what can happen is that something unexpected can come through, which is a good thing, and um, that's why chaos is such a rich um, field. That because it's in the chaos that things can happen. It's like a quantum field that hasn't been collapsed yet. It's a wave that hasn't been collapsed yet into a particle. Like in this part of it, we're really trying to collapse into particles, and very often we try to collapse into particles too soon. You know, it's and so when you go through this process of effort and then surrender, then it's like you've informed the universe and you've created a pathway, and this is where it's like you're reaching, you've gone halfway, and now you're waiting for God to meet you, and the unexpected can come through in that sense. But I think there's a further stage here where there's so they one of the spiritual approaches prevalent is called non-dualism, and so which is to say that it's not like, well, there's my will and then there's thy will, right? There is a state where they actually merge, and it's I am. There's an I amness, which is that I become my will becomes God's will, or God's will becomes my will. There's no differentiation between the person becomes the law, but that takes effort, and it takes surrender, in order to get to that place. So yeah, that's the basic idea. I'm going to stop my share now, and so in terms of trusting one's path, it's like what I was finding was that I was I was strategizing, and I was disciplining myself, but then I was like, there wasn't quite enough self self belief in myself, self esteem or I won't say it that way, because maybe there was too much self esteem, and I wasn't willing to effort, you know. But what happened was I was speaking with my coach, and she suggested letting go, and I was like, okay, well, maybe that's what it needs to happen. And what I found, what happened was I got off the Zoom call with her, and I found myself going into my strategy even with more discipline. So and then I feel like I sort of like exhausted that, and in that exhausting, it wasn't like I let go of it, but it's a really hard thing to describe, but I sort of saw it through to the other side, and got to the place where I was willing to let it change and morph into whatever it needed to be. And and I certainly had to try some things that were not necessarily the right choices for the activity or the endeavor that I was thinking it was for, but it actually that wasn't time wasted, because that activity actually became, in this case, a new meditation. And I know I'm speaking a little abstractly. Let's see if I can ground it a little more here. So I've been working with a what I call a performance wheel, which is it's a method for not only it's a meditation, but it's also like a daily life practice, and it's also a creative arts method. And so there was a certain, so the first part of the sequence of these techniques in this method needed to be made stronger, and then in being made stronger, then there was an integration that was being called for, and I thought that this integration could happen, in daily life and in performance, So I tried doing that, but what I realized that there was a sort of I sort of overshot the mark, but the overshooting of the mark became a sort of a boosted meditation, and the actual integration in the daily life in the creative arts process became something that was easier than I thought it would be. So yeah, I maybe I'll share next time specifically what that is, the performance wheel, and uh, I did share a version on Facebook in poise.us this past week, um, but it still has developed past that, you know. So once again, I'm Christopher McClure, and this is Welcome to the Shift Show, and the topic today has been trust, and you know, and just you know, to conclude, we have there's you know, they say this like when you're camping or something, you know, that if there's some kind of, you know, some catastrophe that happens, that the solution is always within like 100 feet. And, you know, I tend to believe that. And I'm finding that I believe that in a more esoteric or, you know, abstract sense, in that, you know, our path is, it's all here. All the pieces are here. And it's one that we actually have to apply ourselves, and be willing to apply ourselves to the point where, past the point where you think, oh, I'm not sure if this is the right way, you know. But until the right way comes, you uh, I believe that we should apply ourselves. And my need do you would I do it with gentleness. You know, it's like I don't want to force something. So, but I do want to assert myself. So, and then that will you know, it all it's the idea that it all leads somewhere. You know, no matter what you do, as long as you move forward with awareness and intention, the way will be unveiled for you, and you will find out what is the right way. So it's trusting, basically trusting in our own innate wisdom, and that whatever path we choose, you know, that is our right path. It doesn't. It's it the right path is the path that we choose. You know, and if that path is like, you know, a path that's part of a whole collective of people, then but you really believe that, then that's the path for you. And if you choose a path that's much more unique, you know, and individual, then that is the path for you. But in either case, you've got to trust. You know, you've got to kind of like, okay, I'm gonna put my money on this, and I'm gonna see it to the end. And so we're trusting that the path will reveal itself, that if it needs to change, it will change. And it's in the end, the path dissolves, and it's simply, and we become the path. In other words, there's not a separation anymore between, you know, our consciousness and the form that we're choosing. That the we become the form, and the form becomes us. So anyway, you know, we're talking about stuff that's a little hard to talk about, but hey, that's what we do here on Welcome to the Shift Show, and that's what we're facing in terms of humanity shifting. And so, you know, we're talking about shifting on an individual level, but you know, it's like I you know, I find this um, I find that both, I see this in people and I see it in myself, that there's a certain kind of yeah, when are we going to get over this pandemic? You know, it's like when, you know, when the pandemic is over, um, I kind of think that, once again, I was reading this book. Yeah, it's Radical Regeneration by Andrew Harvey and Carolyn Baker, and you know, in this book, he's suggesting that the pandemic is this is the pandemic is the agent of our transformation, of our collective transformation. It is happening, and to keep like sort of like ignoring the pandemic, like hoping it's going to go away, is is we're not actually transforming by doing that, or we're gonna be dragged along in the process. So we actually, it's like, how do I, this is the question I'd like to sort of leave you with, is how do we embrace the pandemic fully so that we're getting everything that we're meant to get from this occurrence in our collective experience. So I'm going to leave it there, and thanks for listening, and see you next time.